So, I mean, for those who don't know, well, hang on.
Jake does not agree with that. What is this? You really said this on Piers? Yes, I did. Because dude, I'm not taking it very seriously. I don't know if you guys can recognize that from the terms I'm using, but I'm not exactly taking this the most seriously, but I'm just having fun with it. I'm freestyling. Okay. I said Mama Gretch.
Which is why I think hang on a second. For those who don't know who the Gretch is, by the way, it's the Michigan governor Gretchen Whitmer. But I want to come to Vinny. Hillary Clinton's name is being talked up here as potentially the unfinished business that she comes sweeping back and she does what she...
I was going to say Hillary Clinton might do better than Joe Biden, but not by a lot, and might still lose, but they cut me off before I could finish that point. But it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Whatever.
She failed to do in 2016, and she actually beats him. What are your thoughts about Hillary returning?
You know what, Piers? I think she's finished. Hillary Clinton has no chance. I think every single time she gets in front of a camera.
Bro, I can't get over Jake said Dems would take Trump over Bernie. That's crazy as no, it's not. He's 100% right on that. They basically did that in 2016, by the way. They 100% would because they did. Also, do you guys not remember 2020? What are you talking about? The Democratic Party and the media apparatus would absolutely, without a shred of doubt, pick Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders. There were people that were openly writing think pieces on this, by the way, when Bernie was a prospect.
Democratic Party. I think she's the worst from her history with her and her husband. It's just, it's abysmal. Let's not even get into the Clinton Foundation and Epstein and her husband. That's a whole different can of worms. But I think it's funny how everybody on the left is so, this whole failed presidency is because of Biden's age and his dementia, which he definitely has. Whoever's going to come in, it's the Democratic Party's policies. Plain and simple. I don't give a damn who you put in there. Gretch, Bernie Sanders, communism, you want socialism, you want all that crap. It's not going to fix anything. That's going to keep going.
I love people going, Bernie showed us his true colors on genocide. Brother, it's not going to happen anyway. But like, that's such a funny take to have. Like, yeah, okay, tomorrow Bernie Sanders is going to be president over Joe Biden, and you're like, nah, he still loves genocide, so no. Like, what are you talking about? We're talking about like what the realistic options are. Bernie is not even in there, but in the hypothetical that he is, what are you going to be like? No, I'm not even entertaining the hypothetical. He's not sufficiently up to snuff. We're talking about the leader of the Democratic Party. Like, what do you mean? That is so beyond comprehension for me because it's so unimaginably unrealistic that like that would ever happen. But I do love entertaining the idea that there's people there. There's people out there that would be like, nah, I actually don't like Bernie as the leader of the Democratic Party. As opposed to who? As opposed to who? Like, what do you want? Embalmed Lenin? Embalmed Mao? Embalmed Ho Chi Minh? Like who? Who's out there? Who is a better Democratic Party candidate? Like Bernie's old, and I think that's a major weakness for him. And especially when everyone's like personally talking about how unimaginably old Biden is, that would be a relatively weak substitution and less likely. But like, why are we even having this conversation over like something that's never going to happen because it's so goddamn beyond the pale? Like, it's so goddamn unimaginable. And there's chatters who are still like, nah, even in that hypothetical, I don't with them.
Moron that they wheel out there now on purpose like a sacrificial lamb with no drugs and everything to turn. You notice, Piers, every other debate, every CNN anchor, everybody that was moderating would cut Trump off. They would yell. They would stop. Notice how they sat there, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. They were quiet. They let everything pull out. This was all on purpose. And I think that Hillary Clinton's on the table. I think Gavin Newsom, for sure, he was the only one there. You notice that? He had good gel in his hair.
Why is he always so angry? Maybe this is not a question to ask 48 minutes into the video, but like, it is kind of weird because like, you could ask him a question about like what he ate for lunch and he would respond with this energy where he's like so mad at you. He's behaving like Piers Morgan has insulted his mother, his dead mother, in front of this crowd, the way he's popping off.
Who, Jenna, if you were a Democrat right now, who would you think?
I had a little bit of a moment with her because she was like chirping about abortion and like how radical Big Gretch was.
Look at how she has run her state as basically taking legislative power into the executive. So look at her position on queer
position
theory.
on abortion
So
that you find so extreme?
Abortion. I
love that she said extreme leftist establishment, by the way. She's not exactly the brightest crayon, okay? Like, she said Andrew Yang would be great. She said she supported Ron DeSantis. Ridiculous stuff overall. This is like the pink hair on the panel, okay? Like the last time I was on, Piers always has to fill the panel with like one person who just doesn't know what the they're saying. Like at least Vinny, despite being a TRT monster, is like at least one, entertaining, and two, has like a tangible position. She, on the other hand, she has no position. She's the no position candidate. She's the center candidate. She's just there to just do this, okay? And have a little bit of airtime so that maybe she can cut together like a video and give that to her middling agent who will then be able to put her on like actual TV shows like MSNBC or whatever. That's the reason why she's here. She's just trying to have like airtime. So she's like, oh yeah, Gretchen Whitmer has radical positions on abortion, okay? Radical positions on abortion.
On abortion that is so extreme is that she wants no limits at all, no restrictions. And most of the country is not for that. Even the Democrats themselves know that there needs to be some restrictions, at least in.
So there's like a bunch of different things I wanted to say here to be like, one, most of the country is in agreement on our side of the spectrum when it comes to abortion. That's why Donald Trump is not defeating Joe Biden handily currently. One, you are a woman. Oh, I did do the you are a woman. I asked her if she's ever been pregnant, but then they cut me off again. Also, it's a lie. Governor Whitmer is in favor of Roe v. Wade in general. I did. Here, you'll see in a second.
Third term. No, that is absolutely true. And I mean, feel free to fact check me on that if she's changed her position, but
no restrictions
all of
on the
Democrat
third trimester
leftists,
is a falsehood. That's not a real thing. Every conversation that we have with Republicans unfortunately revolves around
hang on.
hallucinations of Republicans.
My former home state of Colorado allows abortion until the day of birth.
Yes, all third trimester abortions in every single state still has to have some kind of medical necessity. They get so mad when you call them out on this lie. I know. They need to have some kind of medical necessity. There needs to be some kind of issue that is presented to the carrier. There's no like recreational voluntary abortions happening in the third trimester. It's also 1% of abortions, 15,000 abortions total. It's a ridiculous misnomer. It's just like silly thing to have a conversation around. People are not carrying pregnancies over the course of 3 trimesters to have a fun abortion, like a fun abortion on their own, just for the sake of it. Pure Republican mania.
That is the law in 7 states right now, including California, where Gavin Newsom is the governor.
There is no state in the country where you can have a third trimester abortion without a doctor giving you a medical exemption. No, you still have to get a psychiatric evaluation
and it doesn't matter whether
and a healthcare evaluation.
But it's still allowed. That's the point.
Dude, do you guys want to know something so insane? Third trimester abortions oftentimes are not even covered by insurance. It is a 3-day process for the most part. You're basically inducing a birth in that situation because it's on the third trimester. It is a really complicated procedure. That's number one. And number two, beyond the fact that the procedure itself is complicated and it's like inpatient surgery, you have to be in the hospital for 3 days to be able to get it done. Beyond the fact that you need multiple checks and multiple medical evaluations leading up to the third trimester abortion. Otherwise, you could possibly die during the process. Regardless of all of that reality, it's also usually not covered by insurance. It can cost up to $25,000 in this country. Besides the point, and here's the most significant part of this conversation, okay? Not only is it traumatic, you have carried a baby for 9 months at that point, or at least for 2 trimesters. That is insane to think that like people are going to go out and get a third trimester abortion for the funsies. And the elective aspect of it in terms of the psychiatric damage that the patient has, the carrier has, if you want to eliminate that in its entirety, then make healthcare free, make it so that people can figure out that they're pregnant early on with sex ed, so that there's no one that has to think about it or try to do GoFundMe fundraisers so they can actually get the $25,000 to be able to get an abortion. And by the time that fundraiser is over, you're in the third trimester. Oh, I hate this conversation so much. The idea, and by the way, that's the reason why I asked her, like, have you ever been pregnant? Which will come in a second.
Are going around.
That it is still
okay, you're a woman. Have you ever been pregnant? I have a question for you. Have you or I don't know. Have you? Okay, so you know how tumultuous of a process that is. It's actually,
and so I mean, have you ever been pregnant?
Because the point I'm making is, it is obviously
irrelevant. The point
I've never been pregnant, but it seems like I understand it as good as you do. What's happening here?
No, you actually don't
no
understand
woman is
it
carrying a
because
pregnancy
of the law
for
in
9 months
7/6.
so they can have a regular.
Whether Hassan is pregnant.
No,
pregnancy
for 9
All right, let's.
So they can have
Guys, you're talking over each other.
She didn't have to answer that question. The point is, third trimester abortions are not only unimaginably rare, but they're never actually like elective in the sense that like you just carried it up until that point so you can get the abortion. In some instances, the elective aspect of it, they call it elective, but like the elective aspect of it is because the pregnancy was caught far too late as a direct consequence of not having access to health care. In terms of that, trying to legislate this away so you make it super complicated for the people that literally have like this procedure only out of medical necessity is insanely cruel. Also, yes, I was pregnant and I gave birth to a bear. Emperor, it's real. This is my daughter. I gave birth to her.
I have some breaking news for everyone. The Biden campaign spokesperson, Seth Schuster, says that Biden will not be exiting the race. There's no
And then my goat, Harry Sasson, comes in.
basis for that. There's nothing that voters have indicated that they agree with that. Senior White House correspondent at CNN, Kayla Tausch, said on X, not only does POTUS not plan to drop out, Biden remains committed, incredibly, to a second debate in September, an advisor tells me. I cannot see that happening. But we actually have now this pro-Biden and thinks that he won last night. It's the TikToker, Harry Sisson. Harry, you think Biden won last night?
One person.
Yeah, no, I did, definitely. On the substance of
I got so excited when Harry popped in.
the conversation, Biden won. His policies are pragmatic, it was logical, and Donald Trump.
This is like one of the only remaining pro-Biden TikTokers. I think he might literally be the only one at this point. He's like a super riding for Biden TikToker. Him and the other kid with the Zoomer haircut. He's the last man standing.
I'm not sitting here telling you that Joe Biden tells the truth every single time he speaks, or that he gets every single number right and every single statistic right.
He gets most of them wrong.
That's not true. To compare Joe Biden's lies to Donald Trump's lies is laughable. Trump told over 30,000 lies during his presidency, averaging around 20 a day, and he showed that last night when he lied about every single
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit proud of him for cooking here. He did a good job.
And listen, I'm not denying that Trump made a series of untrue statements. He does that. He barrels through and hopes that the big messages about the border and so on kick home, and they probably do actually with many Americans. But if Biden's going to play the lying card as a pro-Biden thing against Trump, he's got to tell the truth and get his numbers right. He can't then have a fact check from CNN, which was painful to watch last night. It went on and on and on. Almost every statistic he came out with was completely wrong.
Yeah, but Pierce, I mean, let's be real here. Like, if you're lying...
Oh, Vinny's not going to let him slide either. Vinny's coming back. I love how the Dems are ignoring the opposite of the debate when one of the most important debates ever brought up in any political science or history class, the JFK v. Nixon debate where JFK won just because he looked better on TV. And it was also like, I guess at that point, it was like not all that common to have televised debates at all. It was one of those moments where like Nixon was sweating and people could see it. JFK wore makeup and people could see that. And he looked infinitely better in comparison. I think it might have been the first one. Was it the first one? It was the first. Okay, I didn't want to get it wrong. To be even more specific, it was the first ever televised debate. And JFK won with TV watchers, but Nixon won with radio listeners. Yeah.
You see the one where he said
One sec, Vinny. You look like a... Relax, buddy. If you're getting a number incorrect, right? If you're getting a number incorrect, that's like a very
so 7 years
small
ago,
one. Right there.
Were you 10 years old, Harry? How old were you when Trump won? 10 years old? 7 years ago, you were 10 years old.
You look like you're about to explode.
You don't know
Relax.
what the hell you're talking about.
Take a breather.
That's not
Hassan was right to call.
You have makeup.
He's entitled to his
Hassan,
opinion.
listen. I know Hassan's a big fan of mine. He was right to call you out for looking like you're about to explode. It's okay. No problem here.
Yeah, you were 10 years old when Trump won.
You have to level.
Get him, Harry.
AK-47
and what are you, like 80? Like, relax, buddy. Take a breather. You're okay. I promise. It's okay.
Cooked his ass, dude. So what are you, like 80? Relax.
Correct.
Okay.
And get his numbers right. He can't then have a fact check from CNN, which was painful to watch last night. It went on and on and on. Almost every statistic he came out with was completely wrong.
Yeah, but Pierce, I mean, let's be real here. Like, if you're lying...
Oh, Vinny's not going to let him slide either. Vinny's coming back. I love how the Dems are ignoring the opposite of the debate when one of the most important debates ever brought up in any political science or history class, the JFK v. Nixon debate where JFK won just because he looked better on TV. And it was also like, I guess at that point, it was like not all that common to have televised debates at all. It was one of those moments where like Nixon was sweating and people could see it. JFK wore makeup and people could see that. And he looked infinitely better in comparison. I think it might have been the first one. Was it the first one? It was the first. Okay, I didn't want to get it wrong. To be even more specific, it was the first ever televised debate. And JFK won with TV watchers, but Nixon won with radio listeners. Yeah.
You see the one where he said
one sec, Vinny. You look like a... Relax, buddy. If you're getting a number incorrect, right? If you're getting a number incorrect, that's like a very
so 7 years ago,
right there.
Were you 10 years old, Harry?
What was that?
How old were you when Trump won? 10 years old? 7 years ago, you were 10 years old.
You look like you're about to explode.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Take a breather.
That's not
Hassan was right to call.
You have makeup.
He's entitled to his opinion.
Listen, I know Hassan's a big fan of mine. He was right to call you out for looking like you're about to explode. It's okay, no problem here.
Yeah, you were 10 years old when Trump won.
You have to level.
Get him, Harry.
And what are you, like 80? Like, relax, buddy. Take a breather. You're okay. I promise. It's okay.
Cooked his ass, dude. Said, what are you, like 80? Relax, buddy. He's so mad. Oh, man. That made me so happy.
So good.
Zen, yoga. Yoga's good. Yoga's good.
Can I just say, I don't actually care how old either of you are. Let's get back to the real reality, which is I care about the age of the president because he looks like he's 180. So, Harry, I'm just bemused. 33% of people watching it apparently think Biden won. I don't know. Harry, hang on. Harry, I don't know how.
He's getting so mad. Oh, I did have fun. This was probably my most fun Piers Morgan panel.
How anybody honestly can watch that debate and honestly conclude that Biden won. You'd have to be so deeply embedded in the Democrat partisan tank that you can't crawl out long enough to see the wood for the trees.
So first thing, I want to respond to your lie comment. I think that, yeah, we want both candidates to be honest, but we have to weigh the lies here. Like, if Joe Biden gets a statistic incorrect, that is vastly different than Donald Trump still pushing lies about January 6th and about the election. So that's...
He is such a good Democratic Party op, by the way. He is so much better than like 90% of these dummies in terms of like keeping his cool and just sticking to the facts. Like, he's actually a very good communicator. Obviously, push comes to shove. I mean, this guy, he's the, relentless Brandon Dick Rider, right? Obviously. So it's not like we are in line ideologically. But having said that, I think, especially for his age, like he's pretty talented.
Okay, but Harry, here's the problem.
Substance.
Harry, here's the problem. He couldn't articulate his views in a way that anyone could really understand. And secondly, and more crucially, in Trump, he has an opponent who tells a lot of untruths. And what you want the president of the United States to do is to be quick-witted enough and sharp enough and intelligent enough to, every time he does that, leap on it and tell the American people why what he said was untrue. Biden was simply incapable of doing any of that. And that's what a lot of Democrats have said overnight is the most problematic thing. It's not that he's old or anything. It's that he was incapable of either articulating policy in a way that resonated or holding Trump to account. And if you can't do that with a candidate like Trump, there's no hope.
Yeah, except Piers, that was the method that Biden was...
Hang on a second, I'll come to you in 1 second. Just let Harry respond to that.
Sorry.
All right. What I was going to say is, if that's the method that Biden was going to go with, then all of his answers would just be fact-checking Trump. Every 2 minutes he asks, he's be like, okay.
My delay is so annoying too. That's the other thing.
And that's not any way to win a voter over. Biden, I would think it's more of the moderator's job to fact-check as opposed to Biden dedicating his entire debate to fact-checking. Biden should be laying out the policy, which he did. He seemed pretty coherent when he called out Donald Trump for assaulting and raping E. Jean Carroll.
What did you think? Okay, that excruciating moment when Joe Biden basically...
The left is real divided, so we could be good to Sepak and debate with him. What? Dude, shut up. The left is real divided. He's not. He's a liberal. He's a Democratic Party spokesperson at this point. What are you talking about?
He froze and mumbled his words and said complete gibberish. And then Donald Trump just said, I don't think even he knows what he just said. Let's just watch this clip, and I'm going to ask you to explain to me what he said.
I think more importantly, he's super shameless. That's huge. Kind of wild how shameless he is to just like go, not be devoid of any shame whatsoever, to just like go on any broadcast and be like, no, I think Biden did a banger job. Let's hear Vinny. Vinny's content. Vinny's content. Let's hear Vinny.
It was always obvious how old he was. It was always obvious that he couldn't do this. And I want to thank whichever Democrat made the decision to put this before the convention, because thank God the debate was before the convention so we could pick someone else. If you say at this point that we shouldn't pick a different candidate, you're saying I'm super happy to have Donald Trump as president and have him destroy this democracy. It's a betrayal of the Democratic Party. But right now, the RNC should be panicking, not celebrating, because they're going to get a new candidate, and that new candidate is going to kick Trump's ass. That debate turned out to be a disaster for both of the candidates.
Okay, Vinny, I can see you not entirely agreeing with that assessment.
Because I'm just so curious. What threat to democracy? Why didn't he do and burn the country down when he was the president? Why didn't he? All that Putin stuff, all that BS. It's all these Democrats. You guys all have Stockholm syndrome, okay? You guys have all fallen in love with your abuser, and the abuser is the Democratic Party. They don't give a shit about you. They don't care. They don't care. Wheel out whoever you want. It's going to be the same policies. Everything that's happening right now is going to keep happening. What's going to change? You had Harry come on here. The kid, what was he, 10 years old? 8 years old? He's talking about like he's lived a life and he knows what he's talking about. And for nobody to talk up, what's so good about Joe? What has Joe Biden done? Can anybody give me one thing? And don't say infrastructure. It's absolute show, and it's not him running the show as we saw yesterday.
All right,
hold on. It's the them. It's the them. It's the them when.
Look at how they mute me when other people are talking. It's kind of up, don't you think? They won't let me chime in.
What? I think Hassan wants to give you one thing, Hassan.
It's not even just one thing. Here's the problem, okay? I don't like Joe Biden. He went from Jim Crow Joe to Genocide Joe, and he is a monstrous person for the most part, as are many American presidents. Having said that, however, one of the key factors here is that the administration is competent. I use the example of Twitter, right? Twitter used to be run by liberal Jack Dorsey, right? That's his name, I think. I can't really remember. And it wasn't exactly the greatest website. It wasn't the best website. It still had a litany of issues, right? Still breaking people's brains. But at least it functioned. And then Elon Musk took over, and we saw exactly what happened to Twitter. It is now a right-wing shithole filled to the brim with gore porn and just the worst imaginable positions that you've ever heard, and just open white supremacist Nazis getting hundreds of thousands of likes. And that's basically the difference between at least like a Democratic administration, which does fill the agencies. You have the NLRB doing phenomenal work. You have Lena Khan doing phenomenal work at FTC. You have the EPA, at least relatively competent. These are all issues that are going to become massive complications down the line when you have something like Project 2025 openly talking about abolishing the Department of Education, abolishing the EPA. And that's precisely why people like Cenk and myself, who are not exactly big fans of Joe Biden and haven't shied away from criticism, see the writing on the wall, see exactly how damaging someone like Donald Trump's second term is going to look like, and see how damaging Republican policies have become and how reactionary the Republican Party has become, even more reactionary than before.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would also say that...
And what that says for America, that's why we want to...
Hang on, don't all talk at once. I'll come to you. Hassan, I think you've hit on something there, which is it was not only Biden's inability to hold Trump to account for the lies he's telling, but also his inability to sell himself and what he's achieved. Because there are achievements there.
Absolutely.
But actually, he's been incapable. Gavin Newsom, in that 1-minute clip I showed earlier, was able to articulate better achievements by Biden than Biden's been able to do. That's why Biden's approval rating is in the tank at like 37%. Jenna, I want to bring you in here for a kind of summary of where we are with this. What do you think happens now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what's remarkable that we've seen in just the last 12 hours since the debate is that the Democrats are...
I think that's it. That's the end of it. Like, the rest of it is just a herd chirping, and then we end it. I didn't even know the Valentainment guy was going to be there. I just knew that Cenk was going to be there, and I was like, uncle-nephew time. You know what I mean? If felt like I was back on the Young Turks for a moment. Holy this already has 1 million views.
Better.
Jesus Christ. Do we really want to California the whole country? See, they're already saying it. Dude, I can smell Jake's nephew through the screen and my nose ran around the other side of my face. Who's the toddler at the end? The dude in the red is so high off coke, Lamau. Piers Morgan losing all credibility, having morons like Hassan on hard skip. It's so funny how people outside of California just think it sucks here. I don't mind since they will stay where they are, but it's just funny to me. I know. It is my favorite thing. It is my favorite thing when motherfuckers will be like, dude, you don't understand. California is a crime-ridden hole. And it's like, bro, I live here. I don't know if you know this, and it might come as a surprise to you, but I live here. Yeah, sure, there's some problems, especially with Gavin Newsom, some things that I address personally, but it's like pretty good. Los Angeles is what they're talking about. They're not talking about Central Valley. Nobody thinks about Sacramento. Even from Sacramento are not thinking about Sacramento. When people say California, they mean Los Angeles. I'm sorry, chat. Sometimes San Francisco, but that's it. Not even San Diego. Yeah, of course there's parts of California. How do you explain to people that they are just out of their mind with this? How do you do that?
The digital destruction will continue until morale improves, or until these large media companies are finally happy destroying every trace of production from the last 20 years or so, simply because it existed on a platform they know.
Wait, before you go, we have new Patreon stickers. Randomized leprechaun stickers available in the month of March, so sign up now, and one of these little leprechauns can be yours. Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down, because today we are talking about inventors completely destroyed by their own inventions. And what I mean by that is inventors who are killed by their own creations. A weird concept, and a tragic one at that. You make something to give to the world, and it's your ultimate demise. Very Shakespearean in nature, but also very fascinating. And I think it trickles back to one of the first accounts that I think we all know and love, which is Icarus. Icarus is a Greek mythological tale about you flew too close to the sun and you get burned, right? They're in this prison cell, Icarus and his dad, who gives a shit what his name is. They make wings out of feathers in their pillows, and they're able to fly away. But Icarus flies too close to the sun, the glue melts, and he falls to the sea and dies. Tragic. But to think that this could be conceptualized into real life and that this thing could happen to their real inventors is nothing short of awesome. I mean, it really is. I'm not going into the list saying that all of these deaths are awesome, because it's not. It's very tragic and sad, but the irony is pretty funny. We're just gonna look at some of the inventions. Maybe you have some of these inventions in your home. Or maybe not. The first guy that we're talking about is Perilos of Athens. Dude died in 550 BCE. Don't think anybody has this gadget at home, but it's still fun to say, needless, whatever. Perilos of Athens was a sculptor, and he made the brazen bull as a way to execute criminals. Remember, we've talked about this part. The guy who sculpted the brazen bull was inevitably put into it and killed him. That is insane. According to legend, Perilos was the first to be roasted in the brazen bull. Not only was he killed by it, he was the first. That is a bad turnaround for a commission. Well, imagine sculpting this and they're just like, all right, get on in there. He's like, nah, I'm okay. They're like, no, seriously, get in the bowl. A bit boastful and proud while explaining the torture device's functions, Perilos thought he may receive an award for his invention. Instead, this angered and disgusted Phalaris, and he tricked Perilos inside the bowl. That seems rude. Which, if you don't remember, they put a fire under the bronze bowl here, but there's like a trumpet inside of the chamber that goes up and through the mouth so people can hear the screams through the bowl. And the first person to ever do that was the guy who invented the fucking thing, who was so boastful about it too. He's like, no, seriously, the screams are loud as shit. It's awesome. Why did that anger him? Just too cocky?
It sounded like the guy was just being arrogant. Like, look at this cool torture device.
He's like, I'm gonna get an award. People are gonna hate this thing. Give me money. Give me an award, please. Which also, according to legend, after a body was charred, the scorched bones of the deceased supposedly shone like jewels, and bracelets were made of the remains. Perilos was killed inside the burning of the bull, and his body was then thrown off a cliff. That seems a bit excessive. He was already burned inside a giant sculpture he made. I would have just, like, I don't know, put him in a dumpster. Thrown off a cliff feels a bit over dramatic, and that's probably a Greek tragedy. I doubt that happened, but I hope the guy actually did make it, because that's fucking hilarious. On to the next one, which was Wan Hu, a 16th century Chinese official
considered to be the world's first astronaut. Apparently, who is said to have attempted to launch himself into outer space in a chair with 47 rockets attached and with a kite in his hand. I love the optimism. That's like some Dr. Seuss levels of optimism. I feel like a lot of Dr. Seuss's creations, he's just like, well, you've never even heard of one who, have you? Unfortunately, the rockets exploded. He and his chair were never seen from again, and the crater Wanhu on the far side of the moon is named after him. That's pretty insane. Not only is he considered the first astronaut, but also, I mean, like, jackass kind of thing. That's kind of like a jackass vibe, right? You have to give the guy credit for fucking putting 47 rockets, fireworks, basically, on the side of a... on the side of a chair and just being like, I'll see you when I get back from Mars. And he just immediately goes up and explodes. Thank God there's never been any other recording of astronauts blowing up. Don't play that because we'll actually get in trouble.
Today's video is sponsored by Fume. If you have an unhealthy habit that you're trying to solve, I think it's time to try Fume. Once you form a bad habit, it's hard to break. Let Fume fill the void in a natural, guilt-free way, and you can still get your fix. Just way healthier options. Fume's innovative, award-winning device is sleek, lightweight, and can help you kick your habit. Fume is completely natural and replaces vapor with flavored air. Instead of harmful chemicals, users can enjoy Fume's refreshing flavors like crisp mint or sparkling grapefruit, orange vanilla, and raspberry lemon. Wow. Right away, you'll find that Fume's device is easy to use and it tastes surprisingly fresh. And for many people, using Fume device can also be a relaxing way to deal with anxiety and de-stress. Thank God for Fume. Stopping is something that we all put off because it's hard. But switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even pretty fun. Fume has served over 150,000 customers and has thousands of success stories. And there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com/PapaMeat or scan the QR code and use code PapaMeat to get 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Fume Solano launched last November, and you can upgrade your Journey Pack to the Solano to enjoy the premium walnut-barreled and onyx black-coated mouthpiece that has a smoother finish and still get 10% off. That's tryfum.com and use code PapaMeat to save an additional 10% off your order today. Thank you, Fume, for sponsoring the video, and back to the video. Next up, we have Lee C and the 5 Punishments. These are fucking brutal names, dude. You know what's the problem is with this list so far, too, is that after this, the names they're not gonna hold up. It's gonna be like Greg Jones and the Spoon or something like that. Lee C and the 5 Punishments in 208 BC. It's a great fucking picture, too. It's a really good picture. Motherfucker looks pouty. Li Si is credited as one of the most important figures in Chinese history. I don't know why, but that felt very dramatic. He was a chancellor of the ancient country for 4 decades. That's 40 years. Above all, Li Si is credited with pacifying China's enemies, both internal and external, by showing aggression in pivotal moments. He invented the brutal torture named the 5 Punishments to instill some of that rule with a big stick mindset. In 208 BC, Li Si was charged with treason after trying to prevent Fusu from becoming the next emperor, even though the recently deceased emperor Qin Shi Huang had chosen him. My God, the betrayal, the drama, the prestige. Let's read on. As punishment, Li Si was subjected to the 5 Punishments. His face was tattooed, his nose was cut off, his legs and feet were bound, hammered, and then amputated. His genitals were cut off, and finally, he was sliced in half at the waist. God damn. All because he's just like, that guy should be emperor over there. I heard him say it. They're just like, 5 punishments. Like, I'm up just fucking immediately. He was chosen, and he's like, I was told by a pretty good guy that recently died, guys. Can we at least agree on that? And everyone's like, yeah. He said that I was supposed to be emperor. So they just take a butter knife and cut off his nose right there. My boy Li Si he didn't deserve that, dude. I can't even imagine somebody cutting off this boy's nose and his fucking balls and shit. And then he just cut him in half. Seems just all a bit excessive. But finally we get into the 1000s AD. And that's Ismail ibn Hamad al-Jawari. I don't think I said that right. A Muslim Kazakh Turkic scholar, a lexicographer, and a writer. His magnum opus was an Arabic dictionary with over 40,000 entries. Okay? The title translated to The Crown of Language and the Correct Arabic.
That is my book.
And he attempted to fly using 2 wooden wings and a rope. Now, let me tell you something. The year is 1010 when he died. Icarus' story kind of new in relative terms. My boy should have just kept writing. It is possible he might have been experiencing delusions that he was a bird. That's a heavy piece of information. Do we know if he was completely psychotic or not? Also, who the fuck is writing this? It's 1010. What guy is like,
By the way, he also thought he was a bird.
and he's like writing that in a scroll, and he's like, okay, pull that up and put that here. Someone's gonna find that someday. So there you go. He leapt from a roof of a mosque in Nishapur, and he fell to his death. Who let him up there? With giant weight. If this is an accurate drawing here, who let him up there? He must have been insane. He had to have some kind of rationality to where he's just like, no, let me jump. And they're just like, I really think that's a bad idea. And he's like, Icarus who? And he just jumps off immediately and dies. All right, here we go. See, exactly. First boring name, dude. James Douglas, 1580. Oh, God, here we go. He was the first Earl of Borden, a Scottish aristocrat, and an inventor. In 1564, the city of Edinburgh invited inventors to present ideas for clean, efficient killing machines. That's a conference I wish I could go to. We just went to SHOT Show in Vegas. That shit was boring.
Is the AVN more of a torture device?
The AVN was more of a torture device, I will say. There's a video of my good friend, my dearest editor, my right-hand man on this channel, Nick, getting whipped at the AVNs. Maybe we can show a brief second of that.
This cannot be the healthiest workplace environment video to have.
That's going to be in a court case later down in my life. Douglas brought the Maiden, an early type of guillotine that could cut off someone's head in one clean stroke. In 1580, Douglas was charged as an accessory to murder and was condemned to death. Who was surprised by that?
James Douglas was he was a part of a murder?
Well, he's an inventor of death machines. He's not a madman. And as a cruel joke, the Maiden was used to behead and kill Douglas. That is kind of funny. This is one of the times where I'm like, okay, the court was funny with that one. Fuck it. Use his own machine to do it. James Douglas is like, no, not my own machine. You think he talked to it? It's like laying there and he's like, don't do it, my love. Eyewitness accounts say the device worked rather well. Douglas was killed instantaneously. That's weird. That is weird. I like how people were like, my God, he was a good inventor. Look at that. That was a clean cut. His body was buried in an unmarked grave, though his loose head was put on a spike outside the city gates and stayed there for 18 months. If I was going to get beheaded, I would want my head put up there. It's kind of cool. Except Game of Thrones taught me that people like throw shit at it. But you know, a lot of cool people were put in unmarked graves. Mozart was in an unmarked grave. The best musician to ever live. James Douglas. They're in hell just like you and I are one and the same. Next up, we have Henry Winstanley, 1703. That is not an attractive man. This painting does not do him justice. Brown hair with a brown background and a brown gown. What the hell kind of color scheme was that? How would you put some goddamn color in it? Good Lord. He was an English painter and inventor. Winstanley designed and built the world's first offshore lighthouse. That's fucking sweet. He had grown tired of losing his ships at sea and sought to solve the problem. It took him 3 years to build. First off, what a crazy problem. How many ships did he lose? All these goddamn ships are getting lost. I'm going to put a building right in the ocean, and we're going to make a big fire. It shoots out so people can't get lost. It's a pretty good idea. Do you think people probably made fun of him? Really, Henry? A castle on an island? You're so foolish. For 5 years, no ship was lost due to the lighthouse's help. All right, there you go. He was so proud of it and sure of its safety, he boasted that he could shelter inside it during the greatest storm there ever was. He took refuge in the lighthouse during the Great Storm of 1703, but the lighthouse was completely destroyed, and Winstanley plus other 5 men that accompanied him were never found. That was kind of a dumb bet. Also, how did they know that there was going to be a big-ass storm coming? The clouds just shifted, and he's just like, fine, I'm going to camp overnight, and I'm going to be fine. Didn't happen. What if he was just like, I don't want to deal with boats anymore, I'm leaving. Puts a C4 at the bottom of his lighthouse and just blows. Next up, we have Jean-Francois Pilatre de Rosières in 1785. I definitely didn't say that right. He was French. In 1783, Jean-Francois made the first untethered manned balloon flight. I know this is not going to end well. In 1783, a man named Jean-Francois did the first untethered manned balloon flight. He made multiple successful flights and even took the skies in front of the French king, which made him a major celebrity in France and inspired others to want to come up with ways to fly longer distances. All right, I thought it was a one-and-done deal, but no, he's had his time. But tragically, in 1785, he made history again, credited as the first first known air crash fatality. Jean-Francois crashed his invention, the Rosier balloon, on June 15, 1785, while trying to cross the English Channel. Damn, fucking France to the English Channel. It's not like the longest thing, but by balloon? You have to have balls. Also, how weird would that look? As an upshot, the modern hot air balloon, which uses a combination of hot air and helium, is named the Rosier balloon in his honor. It continues to be used today. How sweet. He was the first guy to do it and the first one to die. That is funny. Next up, we have Robert Cocking, 1837. And he was a 61-year-old British watercolor artist. And after seeing the first parachute jump in England in 1802, he felt inspired to improve on the design. A bit narcissistic. All right, there's your downfall. The parachute design used an inverted cone, 107 feet in circumference, connected by 3 hoops. Look at that. Robert Cocking in watercolor form. Who commissioned this watercolor? So he's flying, and then we're going to see him. He's going to be dying here. He's falling to earth. Great build on him, though. My God. You know what kind of looks like is the flying saucer in Up. Or did I just say Up? I meant no. He was not a professional scientist and had no parachuting experience. Attaboy, Cocking, attaboy. On July 24th, 1837, Cocking died testing his homemade parachute. He failed to include the weight of the parachute in his calculations, thus he fell too quickly. Oh, that is tragic. Cocking was instantly killed in the crash. Tests carried out by John Wise showed that Cocking's design would have worked if only it was better constructed and larger. That is tragic. Someone had to have been there to see that, right? There was a crowd of people watching him, and he's just like, here I go, and just like... After Cocking's death, parachuting became unpopular. Oh, really? And mostly seen in carnival and circus acts until the late 19th century. I kind of think parachuting should still be unpopular. The fact that if you fold the parachute wrong, you're dead. Too much responsibility. Especially it's like families own that shit. Kids fold the things and put the backpacks in there. Isn't that weird? But of course, it's nothing compared to William Bullock in 1867. He was an American. He's one of us. Mr. Bullock's main invention was the Webb rotary press. It was a huge advancement in the publishing industry at the time in 1863. Its design was an improvement on Richard March Rowe's original press created 20 years earlier. The main difference was that this printing press self-adjusted and automatically loaded large amounts of paper into rollers. Ooh, baby. In 1867, Bullock was installing one for the Philadelphia Public Ledger newspaper when his leg got jammed in the machine. Oh, God. The injury he suffered there led to gangrene, and Bullock died during his amputation operation. Man, I'll tell you what, getting a fucking leg amputated in the 1800s, especially in America, holy shit. Motherfuckers did not wash their hands back then, all right? Man, what a pathetic way to die, too. That's just so sad. Oh, got my leg jammed, and then he's like, all right, it hurts, it does. All right, I'm gonna have to lose my leg. Okay. And he gets fucking gangrene. Absolutely brutal. We leave the 1800s with Otto Lilienthal in 1896. If this motherfucker dies from flying again, I'm going to... He was a German inventor known as the Flying Man. That shit should have ended with the fucking Wano. He painstakingly studied the wings of a white stork as research for his invention designs. Created the first controllable glider. He had over 2,000 successful flights. No wonder he was labeled the Flying Man. Good Lord. In 1893, Otto flew for a record-breaking distance of 250 meters. And in 1896, while flying to break his own record, Lilienthal fell over 50 feet from the air to his death. Breaking his neck, he was rushed to the hospital where he died shortly after. And his famous last words were, "Sacrifices must be made." That is fucking awesome. And with a broken neck, too. His like neck's all bent up, and he's like, "Sacrifices must be made." And he's like, oh, shit. With his inventions and studies, he pioneered the aerodynamic phenomenon known as the heavier-than-air flight, which led to the conception of the fixed-winged aircraft. Unlike Icarus, Otto knew what he was doing, and he is widely remembered as the father of flight, and is credited by the Wright brothers' main inspiration. This is probably the only positive one so far. Sacrifices must be made. Sacrifice. Unschensplach. It's me trying to speak German. In respect, of course. It doesn't matter. Franz Reichelt in 1912. I love that we're getting pictures now. This dude looks like a vampire hunter. That is a crisp photo for 1912. Known as the Flying Tailor, here we go again. Reichelt was testing a coat parachute he had designed. He fell to his death leaping from the deck of the Eiffel Tower. All right, that's kind of funny. His parachute seemed to have only opened halfway and folded around him immediately. He fell for a few seconds before striking the frozen soil at the foot of the tower, and it was reported that his right leg and arm were crushed, his skull and spine broken, and that he was bleeding from the mouth, nose, and ears. He was already dead by the time onlookers arrived. During an autopsy, it was concluded that Reichelt died of a heart attack during his fall. That is insane. He's like, that is fucking insane. People are like, it's beautiful. He would have just been like dead floating, which that would have been pretty sick too. Reichelt was trying to create a way for pilots to survive a fall out of an aircraft. Reichelt had promised the authorities that he would use a dummy, but at the last moment, he strapped himself into the garment and jumped off. And front of a camera crew. To get wrapped up in that would suck. To have a heart attack and then plummet to your death also would be equally as tragic. But next up, we also have Thomas Andrews, 1912. I think a couple people might know who Thomas Andrews is because he was a British businessman and shipbuilder. He was the naval architect in charge of the plans for the Titanic. He was on the maiden voyage that hit the iceberg and sank. Andrews, along with 15 other passengers on board, died, and his body was never found. Supposedly, Andrews asked for another row of lifeboats to be installed. This was rejected. Had it not been, there would have been enough emergency accommodations to save every passenger and crew member on the ship, which I'm pretty sure he's in the movie. So just want to put that in there. The actor who's in Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon, it's her creepy old professor that wants to fuck Reese Witherspoon, and she rejects him and she doesn't give him a promotion, but it's okay because Luke Wilson, who's Owen Wilson's brother, comes in. He has a really bad haircut and finger flicks Reese Witherspoon later and gives her a job and she wins. It's that actor. Next up, Francis Edgar Stanley, 1918. He was an American businessman and co-founder of Stanley Motor Carriage Company. Dude, I missed just the phrase carriage. It's a motor carriage. He was in business with his twin brother, Freeland Oscar Stanley. And after selling their photography business for $500,000, they started a steam car manufacturing company. They founded in 1897 and built a car that same year, and it became a hit among with wealthy automobile enthusiasts. In 1906, their steam car, the Rocket, broke the land speed record, reaching the speed of 127 miles per hour. Which is what a 2006 Honda Civic could do today. But it is very impressive still for back then. Put up a picture of a car that can do that. We've come a long way. And in 1918, though, Francis was killed while driving a Stanley Steamer automobile. He drove his car into a wood pile after attempting to avoid farm wagons traveling side by side on the road. I started laughing there, but it was just because it's kind of goofy. And I picture like old-timey sounds like, he's like, get your wagons out of the way! What? Like with their horses?
You think he's going 127?
I don't. Yeah. I bet you he was going 35 miles an hour and still he was like, ah! Speed wobbles. No! Alexander Bogdanov, 1928. I feel like I've heard his name before. Russian polymath, revolutionary, and pioneer hematologist. Which a polymath is a person with a wide-ranging knowledge of many subjects. Wow, what a fucking... I'm going to boast it. I know a lot of things about over the course of many areas. We're going to call that a polymath. He was a physician, philosopher, science fiction writer, made advancements in blood transfusion, and made important contributions to cybernetics. Jesus Christ, dude. Was this fucking Tony Stark? Goddamn. Founded the first Institute of Blood Transfusion in 1926. Uh-oh. After carrying out an experimental blood transfusion between himself and 21-year-old student who had an inactive case of tuberculosis, Bogdanov believed the younger man's blood would rejuvenate his aging body. Which... Who does that sound like, right? Little YouTuber that's on YouTube right now? Little $1 Million Man? Is the YouTube vampire a polymath? Maybe. And that his own blood would help cure the student's disease. He believed his body was resistant to tuberculosis. He died from an acute hemolytic transfusion reaction. This is a serious complication during transfusions. The red blood cells that were given during the transfusion are destroyed by the person's immune system. Basically, he made blood transfusion tube and it kills him. And he was a very important man. He knew a lot of things. In 1930, we get introduced to Max Valier. He was a member of the 1920s German Rocket Society. And Valier was so enthralled with rockets' potential, how it could one day fuel astronauts to the moon. He decided to showcase the power and awe to the public. He wanted to excite the public and also draw funding for his own projects and research. He fitted rail cars, sleds, gliders, and most notably, race cars with rockets for these public demonstrations. That's awesome. I would have been there. You want to see a guy drive one of the steam automobiles with a rocket attached? I'd be like, okay, it's 1930s. I have literally nothing else going on. I'm eating bread. I'd say, sure, I'm just eating bread. I'll go with you. For Max, safety came secondary. What a badass. Valier wore no goggles and no fire retardant clothing. Instead of sitting behind a concrete wall looking through a small slit window, he sat right in front of the combustion chamber with his face fully exposed to the flames shooting upwards. There was very little prior research and no funding, so he was forced to rely on luck. He invented a liquid-fueled rocket engine, and on the 17th of May, 1930, his luck ran out. An alcohol-fueled engine exploded on his test bench in Berlin, causing a piece of shrapnel to pierce his pulmonary artery, and Max Valier died in 10 minutes. He was 35 years old. I laughed because I'm just imagining the slit in the wall and the flames coming through. Okay, I'm sorry. Making him one of the first casualties of the modern space age. That's not true. One who blew himself up with rockets on a fucking folding chair. Max was just kind of like, I guess I'll stand here. You know what I mean? I want to see Max Valier's rocket car. This is sick. that is cut on the inside. I want to meet some guy like this, dude. Guy's just like, I'm just gonna make this. It's kind of funny looking at driving. Looks like a big cock on the road. Ding, 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 ding. Riding around. We have Marie Curie in 1934. God, she's hot. This one is indirect, but Polish-French physicist and chemist Curie was a pioneer in researching radioactivity. She won Nobel Prizes for her work in physics and chemistry, making her the first woman to win the award. Not only that, she was the first person to win the award twice and is the only person to have the award in 2 different fields. She's a fucking badass. She's credited for discovering radioactive polonium, also for coining the term radioactivity. That's pretty fucking brutal. If you're the person who's just like, hey, it's called radioactivity, that's awesome. Though, for her efforts, it is believed her long exposure to radiation is what led to her death in 1934, technically of aplastic anemia, but because of the many devices she created. And in a way, even her death was a discovery because Curie herself never acknowledged the radioactivity's toll on her health. And after her daughter, and her son-in-law all died researching the same thing, it became more clear that the radiation was harmful to your health and could cause diseases, which you know. She died at 66 in 1934, so she's, you know, pretty long time for that kind of thing. Next up is Thomas Midgley Jr., 1944. Jesus Christ, this fucking drawing is haunting. He was an American engineer and chemist who created 2 chemicals that did the most environmental damage. Leaded gasoline, which released large quantities of lead into the atmosphere. This has been linked with neurological impairment and increased levels of violence. And Freon, a refrigerant that destroyed the ozone layer and caused greenhouse gas effects. All right, dude, my boy Thomas, he made some cool stuff, but they might have done some bad things, all right? He contracted polio at age 51, leaving him severely disabled. He devised an elaborate system of ropes and pulleys so that others could lift him from the bed, but he became entangled in the ropes one day and died of strangulation at 55. Yeah, I figured. That's pretty funny that you would think that it was going to be like he blew up from gas or something. It's like, no, he's like, I have an elaborate pulley system. And he just got strangled by it. That's fucking brutal. Next is Henry Smolinski from 1973. He's the creator of the AVE MWIII, a flying vehicle that was half a Ford Pinto and half a Sensa Skymaster. During a test flight, the MWIII's right wing detached mid-flight. The aircraft disintegrated after taking off and making a right turn. It was the sole product of the company he founded. The one thing he was supposed to sell disintegrated and it fucking blew up in his deal. I do want to see the flying Pinto here. That's insane. That is actually so sick. Oh, I would not get in that back seat. Oh, where are you going? How would you ever regulate flying vehicles like that? You know what I mean? It would be impossible. There you go. Carol Sukik, 1985. Canadian inventor, daredevil, and stuntman. He referred to himself as the last of the Niagara daredevils, and he invented a shock-absorbent barrel. I know where this is going now. Goddamn. Sukik had already gone down Niagara Falls in the barrel and survived. This made him the 8th person to go down the Niagara Falls in a barrel at that time, and not all of them survived. He was just one of the lucky ones. But now, Sukik wanted to expand upon the stunt. He wanted to drop himself from 180 feet from the top of the Houston Astrodome and land in a pool of water, where he would emerge unscathed, to truly prove his barrel was protecting him. It didn't go as planned, and the barrel hit the rim of the tank before making it to the water. Miraculously, Sukik survived the impact, but died soon after. Here is Sukik at the Astrodome. Here he goes. Whee! Well, that's a bummer. That'd be pretty fucked up too, because you can't even see see when you're falling. You know what I mean? Next up, we have probably one of the greatest legends to ever live on this earth, and that's Marvin Haymeyer in 2004. Marvin Haymeyer was an American automobile muffler repair shop owner and professional welder. He became disgruntled after multiple back and forths of zoning rights, sewage line discussions, and plans to build a concrete plant next to his shop. His anger continued to manifest. He modified a bulldozer with firearms and armor composed of cement and steel before embarking on the Killdozer rampage as revenge against his city, which was in Colorado. The Killdozer had 3 gun ports, fitted for a 50 caliber rifle and a 308 caliber semi-automatic rifle and a 22 caliber rifle, all fitted with a 1/2-inch steel plate. Haymeyer unalived himself after his vehicle became lodged inside the basement of a building he attempted to demolish. As Haymeyer had no way of exiting the Killdozer after sealing himself in, the authorities have speculated that the unaliving was an inherent feature of the vehicle's design. Once he tipped that lid shut, he knew he wasn't getting out. And inside the tank also had AC, 3 handguns, and enough food and water to last a week. The Killdozer rampage did over $7 million in damages to the city. The attack lasted 2 hours and 7 minutes, damaging 13 buildings, 11 of which were occupied until moments before their destruction. Many town records and archives were destroyed along with the town hall, though no one except Haymeyer was injured during the incident. The man was not having it, is all I gotta say. And in a way, you know what? He's like a bit of a vigilante. Only the people that fucked him over got their shit destroyed, all right? And to be fair, a 50 caliber gun was a bit excessive. Marv, I'm gonna think anybody deserved to die, but I do think it's funny that he destroyed all their businesses. I just wanted to say that. Next up, we have Luis Jimenez from 2006. He was an American sculptor and graphic artist. Jimenez had a string of bad luck that eventually accumulated in his death. As a child, his eye was shot by a BB gun. Surgeries corrected his vision, but migraines later in life led him to get a glass eye. Jimenez was an art teacher at a junior high school and got into a car accident that left him temporarily paralyzed from the chest down. In his later years, he had a heart attack and required a hand surgery. But on June 13, 2006, a large piece of his 32-foot high art piece, which was a blue Mustang, came loose, fell, severing an artery in his leg. The sculpture was later finished after his death and delivered to the Denver International Airport, which is like a really popular thing now, which is also associated with the Denver Airport having all kinds of weird stuff going on. And now even the blue Mustang itself is kind of like an art. It's like an evil arbiter. We might do a video on the Denver Airport, but there's some freaky shit going on there. All right, just want to say that. Next up, we have Jim Heselden, 2010. My God, that picture is haunting. Good Lord. Although Heselden was not the inventor of the Segway, he bought Segway Incorporated, and he died while driving a Segway. So you have to throw him on this list, right? Heselden was an English entrepreneur. He was a former coal miner, and he became wealthy manufacturing the Hesco Bastion Barrier System. And on the morning of September 26, 2010, Heselden was out on a walk with his dog, and he reversed his Segway to let another dog walker pass and accidentally fell off a cliff. At the unfortunate time of his death, he was ranked inside the top 400 of the Sunday Times rich list with an estate worth of 340 million British pounds. He's out there on the little cliff retreat, riding a Segway, and on the kindness of his heart, he backed off right off a cliff. Segways are not that fun to ride, too. I just want to put that out there. It's like riding a vacuum cleaner. That's what it feels like to me. And lastly, we have Stockton Rush from 2023. You don't know this one. I don't know what. You must not have had a phone, because Stockton Rush oversaw the design and construction of the Ocean Gate submersible Titan. The craft imploded during a dive to ironically visit the Titanic. That is extremely ironic. That's also two people that have very similar deaths on this list, except one of them fucking imploded. All right, at least Andrews didn't. I'm pretty sure his name is Andrews. At least he didn't implode. Many warned Rush of his flawed design and his mixing of materials, but he remains staunchly in his unregulated design. He said, and I quote, "At some point, safety is just pure waste. I mean, if you just want to be safe, don't get out of bed. Don't get in your car. Don't do anything." End quote. That seems a bit unrealistic. Don't get out of bed? Pretty sure that just because you get out of your bed doesn't mean you're going to go to the bottom of the ocean in a goddamn Texas Instruments calculator that's going to implode on itself, all right? And, you know, it obviously didn't go very well, and there's been, I don't know, a billion different videos of people dissecting what it would be like to be in that fucking sarcophagus imploding. It is absolutely sad. But what does this list teach us? 1, don't invent anything, because your inventions will kill you. Number 2, if you know somebody who invented something and they want you to use it, don't do that. And number 3, if a guy tells you that he's gonna take you to see the Titanic and everyone's like, you really shouldn't go, I really think that you probably shouldn't go. And number 4, Juan Hu was the man. If you have a folding chair and you strap 47 rockets to it and you have a kite and you think you're going to the moon, that's awesome. And also there's a literal crater on the moon that's named after him. That's fucking metal. There's a lot of good ones on here, but too much flying stuff. If you know anybody who's like into flying and they're not on a plane, don't get rid of them, all right? Just want to say that's a bad friend. You don't want that friend. But with that, that's the end of today's video, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down. Today we're talking about amusement parks, because spring's right around the corner and it's the perfect time for amusement parks to open back up. The weather's going to be really nice. You get to go on all your favorite rides. But the tragic thing about amusement parks is that death lurks around every corner, which is why I have my document. God damn it, I forgot my document. Okay, 1 second. Winslow, wake up. Winslow. Come on, buddy, wake up. Winslow, you're having a nightmare. Hey.
Oh, Hunter! Oh, thank God! Oh, you saved me. I was having the worst nightmare.
Okay.
It was awful.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. So, I'm actually doing a video right now on that amusement park video idea, and you still haven't sent me the information on it. They're waiting for me, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't know what day it was. We can film it down here if you want.
No, I don't. I'm recording it upstairs on my other computer in my room, so.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll just email it to you.
Here, do you need help? You want me to hit your keys or anything? Here, let me type it out.
No, stop.
So
no,
if I can try to...
stop.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh. All right. I don't need you to touch me.
I hate when you shake like that. Stop shaking.
Oh, I sent you the email, so get out of here.
All right, thanks, Winslow.
Get out of here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So, from 1990 to 2004, there was an average of 3.7 amusement park deaths annually. How do you get the decimal point there?
It's an average.
It's an average? Is that about little people? Little people and people that have lost limbs? This is down from 4.5 previously and may have a lot to do with the fact that more stringent laws were put into place. Things were a lot dicey back in the day, and all of us millennial babies and on have actually had a relatively safe amusement park experience. At least so we thought. Despite these deaths occurring in the same place, the deaths are usually related to guests refusing to follow safety protocols, but even still, measures have to be put in place to prevent guests from breaking safety procedures. We're talking about basic fencing, guardrails, time gates, belt buckles, all this kind of stuff really wasn't around totally, which I think we overlooked today. It's an annoyance. It's a thing that stops us from having fun. Our monkey brains need to just calm down because we are in peril at all times. Follow the rules is what they say. Oftentimes, it's a guest health issue that causes the problem, as roller coasters are known to cause blood pressure to spike, which can injure or weaken already stressed arteries and valves, resulting in aneurysms, heart attacks, and bleeds. AKA, my fat ass is going up on a roller coaster. I might not be coming back down. Gross negligence on the park's behalf can account for many injuries, whether from fault in structure, design, maintenance, or even operator error. Sometimes, even nature gets in the way. It's a slippery slope in these big amusement parks meant to be fun with machines that propel you at speeds that you would have never gone before. At times, there's going to be human error, but sometimes I think God looks down even and he says, no. You come back to me. And according to the National Safety Council, more than 1,400 ride-related injuries occur every year. And according to the Global Association for Attractions Industry, the IAAPA, 53% of all injuries occur on family/adult rides, while roller coasters only account for 36%, while the rest are children rides. I think that a lot of these places like Disney, they're meant for children, but they're coming for children. The death is coming for those that are young. With the economy failing and parks having to refinance everything, amusement parks are cutting corners left and right to get people in without having to do all the maintenance and stuff. Yeah, they might throw a little paint on something to make it look new, but goddamn if that thing isn't holding on for dear life. And the end result is always whether or not your safety is profitable. One of the more recent events from the Orlando Freefall Drop Tower, which is the world's tallest freestanding drop tower, standing at 400 feet tall. The 14-year-old boy fell from the ride after not having his harness properly secured, and bystanders recorded the incident. The weight limit was 287 pounds, and the child was 6 foot and weighed 383 pounds. The ride operator had only been working for 3 days at the time of the incident, and the forensic analysis teams investigated the ride and found out that someone had tampered with the harness, and thus the safety sensors did not trigger a warning. I'm a big old boy. Going into this video, I feel personally connected to every morbidly obese child and man or woman out there, because my fat ass trying to get onto Disney rides was difficult. If you're a big old boy and you got some cake, rides aren't worth it. You know what you should have done? Eat a churro. Disney churro is pretty good. Or you can go through the Disney Star Wars experience where you can be really fat and no one cares because you're just walking around a little bit. Or the seats are like that of like a buffet bench. So it's perfect for me. But my fat ass trying to squeeze onto Space Mountain? Are you kidding me? With these big old, like for people that were built in the 1960s? Are you kidding me? Yeah, right. To that 14-year-old 6-foot monster of a man, that absolute unit. Godspeed, kid. Godspeed. Without further ado, we're going to get into some of the nation's funnest rides that killed people. So let's get into it. First off, we have Ride of Steel in Darien, New York, Six Flags. I can't remember the last time I went to Six Flags. I'll tell you, the only thing we had in Kansas City was Worlds of Fun. Not on this list, but there is another little Kansas attraction here. That was horrible. It actually really tore the community up. But we're going to be talking about it here in a bit. Anyways, Ride of Steel in Darien, New York, Six Flags. In 2011, a 29-year-old Army veteran was violently launched out of the ride after he raised his arms to try to hold on to his loose hat. Be really funny if his hat said "No fat chicks." No, no! He was a double amputee and was riding in the front row of the roller coaster. What? What? I thought that if you didn't have legs, you could. There's no way.
That they eventually said they probably shouldn't have done that.
There's got to be something down there. He fell 150 feet, resulting in his death. Because of his lack of legs, it was determined later that he should not have been allowed on the ride since there wasn't anything to secure the lap belt per the safety regulations. I'm laughing and I'm smiling, but it's not because of the no legs thing. I just am a horrible person, and I'm very sorry. The ride was shut down for 2 weeks following the incident. This is not the first time. A lot of these rides that you probably have been on in your life, someone has probably died on it. Like at some given point, maybe someone didn't fling out because they had no legs and they were shot into the air like a goddamn rock from a slingshot. I mean, people have died on a lot of rides and they just shut it down for like a week or two and they're like, okay. Or they'll paint it and rename it or something. It's unbelievable. And the weird thing about that too is like, it's the uncanny thing of like, if you were buying a house and you knew that someone died on it, you do want to buy the house.
How cheap is it?
What kind of person are you? Next up is Disneyland. That's a big, thick bit. I have a lot of complaints about Disneyland, and especially the ride that we're talking about now, the Matterhorn. I rode the Matterhorn 30 or 45 minutes before the park was getting ready to close, and that ended my night. After I went on the Matterhorn, I was done. So Disney, which is supposed to be the happiest place on earth, would you be surprised if since it's been open, 26 people have died there? Which honestly, I thought was going to be much more. Really, the numbers for how long they've been open, that's probably not that bad of a rate of people and the amount of people that come in, but still 26 people died in there. Come on, Mickey. Come on, let's half that up. 13. Nice to tell me 13. And in 1984, a 48-year-old woman was tossed from her bobsled car and was hit by another bobsled car on a track, immediately decapitating her. If you've ever been on the Matterhorn, I mean, it feels like a fight to survive anyways. And for a woman to be flung once more at this rapid speed and have her head immediately cut off, I wish I would have died a different way. If I was going to die on the Matterhorn, I feel like, I don't know which way it is. Maybe the giant Yeti animatronic falls on you, or it's like, you know what I mean?
I was gonna say, what if like ripped you out of the seat and threw you?
Is it a real Sasquatch? Okay, I'm trying to think that it's a robot, Nick. And upon investigation, it was determined that her seatbelt was not properly fastened, whether it came loose during the ride or if the passenger willingly unbuckled it on its own. And I went, I'm pretty sure my seatbelt was not totally fastened. I think I was so suctioned in, being so fat, nothing could have got me out of that. Remember me even trying to get out of it? Took for a long time. Next up, Action Park, New Jersey, which everybody's heard about this. There was the Johnny Knoxville movie that was made. It's one of those things, it's like from the 70s and 80s where people didn't give it safety regulations, and they had a lot of stuff. But we're just gonna hone in on one. In 1982, a man got caught on the kayak experience ride, promising a simulation of what it's like to go river rafting. At one point during the ride, his kayak tipped over, and when he got in the water to tip it back over, he stepped on a metal grate that was too close to live wiring that powered the underwater fans, causing the waves. He was electrocuted and went into cardiac arrest, dying shortly after. The park claimed the man wasn't electrocuted because he didn't suffer any burns, even though the coroner claimed underwater electrocutions really cause burns. This begs the question because so far we've just talked about people being flung from a ride due to no legs or no seatbelt. So let me ask you this so far. Would you have rather been electrocuted or would you have rather been flung from a deal?
Am I instantly killed from the electrocution?
I would say no, but just to make it fair as in the idea that you're being flung. So like you have to at least have that mental thing of like, oh my God, right? And then you hit the ground. So you would think that you would at least have to kind of be like, for like a second and then you die. You would die about the same equal time, 4 seconds. Hey, leave a comment down below, smash that like button and ring the bell. Be sure to subscribe. And also, would you rather be electrocuted from a live wire under a water ride, or would you rather be flung from a roller coaster? Let me know down below. Which one would you do?
I think to be dramatic, I'd be flung.
You kind of know what it feels like to fly for a little bit. Next up is Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure in Universal Orlando. First off, redo the fucking name. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Why not just Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure? Why magical creatures? We get it. We're in Harry Potter world. And this happened in 2019, and the cause of death results from bees. Not the bees! For over a month from September into October, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure was plagued by a nest of honeybees. Since in Florida, honeybees are an endangered species, they could do little to remove it. Despite paying to have them removed, the bees continued to return. The ride had to be closed for several days, and despite relocating, had to be closed again.
I don't think anyone dies here.
What? Okay, well, part of my research here, which I'm going to slap the out of my computer Winslow, because no one dies here. Winslow, nobody died. People just got stung. Well, what if somebody was allergic and they got stung? That'd probably be reported, though.
That's what I was hoping for.
You were hoping for that.
I was hoping someone went to anaphylactic shock and lived, of course.
You're horrible. You're a horrible, horrible man. Next up, Holiday Land in Santa Claus, Indiana. Which what a terrible name, dude. Every month that it is in December, you must, what a f***ing embarrassing name. What's the local team? Are they the Santa Claus? The Jolly Red Men?
The reindeers.
Are they actually the reindeers? Probably, you're probably right. In Holiday Land, we're talking about the ride, The Raven, which is an enormous swing wooden roller coaster. The Raven was designed by Custom Coasters International in 1995, and the company, as is, no longer exists as of 2002. That feels suspicious. If this thing happened in 2003 and the company went out of business in 2002, what did they do to this ride to cause this event? A year before the incident, voted #1 roller coaster in 2001,
That was a few moments.
Its path was designed to mimic the flight pattern of a raven, and it's themed around Edgar Allan Poe's poem, which everyone's heard that stupid ass poem, Quoth the Raven, Nevermore. The first death on the ride, a guy named Tamar, was sitting in the last car on the coaster and was seen standing as the ride progressed. The Raven, as it is a wooden constructed coaster with nails sticking out of every which way and sagging boards as far as the eye can see. When the car returned, Tamar, the victim, was no longer in her seat and the seatbelt had been unbuckled. This ride has no loops or extreme curves. It does, however, feature an 80-foot drop that gives the sensation of being likely to be thrown from the train. According to her fiance, something was very wrong with the ride and she panicked. Why would you panic? So your first thing to do is while the ride is going, you unbuckle your seatbelt. I'm free! At the fifth and final drop, she was thrown from her seat. Spokespersons for the park cited that the ride was functioning as intended. And the Indiana Fire Marshal declared there to be nothing wrong with the ride, mechanical or otherwise. All restraints were functioning properly. Well, I mean, come on, yeah, no shit. You like freaked out and took, I mean, listen, I have panic attacks too where I'm like, and I get up and I have to go, but I would feel like at that point, you close your eyes and you just breathe, you do like the, because I mean, how long would the ride be? A minute? I mean, 2 minutes max, 2 minutes max.
Some people panic, dude.
I fucking panic too. I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, I'm just like, really, dude? Especially you've gone through 4 drops and you can't just do the last one. In 2005, the family sued the park and the manufacturer of the train of the coaster, the actual train carts. They settled for an undisclosed amount out of court. Conversations with workers and interviews with EcoTaste, the executive committee of the American Coaster Enthusiasts. Who the actually made that?
Coaster enthusiasts, man.
What I'm saying is like, it's not even a business. It's just them being like, oh, I love coasters. Love them. I love coasters. Well, they say that the lap bar had been broken for some time and was being rigged together with an old lanyard. Despite the public claim that Tamar had been standing up, the official announcement was that Tamar had done nothing to risk her life, but later on, the statement changed, accusing her of being careless. Tamar, who weighed under 100 pounds at the time, may have been too small for the bar to work effectively. A couple things after that. That's very sad. Gain some weight. Only let the fatties go on the roller coasters is what I gotta say. Who's at fault here?
I think Tamar.
You think Tamar had a panic attack? I think the Raven didn't do its job, dude. Especially it was held with a lanyard. What the f? Anyways, Voyage Coasters, June of 2003. The Voyage, a metal structured coaster with wooden tracks, voted 2013 top wooden roller coaster in the nation. Oh, it's a wooden roller coaster. There's one in Kansas City at Worlds of Fun called the Timberwolf. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Whiplash. I mean, I think that people have gotten legitimate whiplash on that ride.
Oh yeah, she's rough.
It's a 1.2 mile long track with 90-degree banking and hard turns with over 24 seconds total of weightless fall time. It opened in 2006, developed by the Gravity Group. Gotta get over yourself. The fucking roller coaster company. What do you want to call it? The Gravity Group. The remaining front of the custom coasters that designed the Raven, themed after the Mayflower. As the structure began to sag and the ride became too rough for most passengers, so they got new train cars to soften the experience. This resulted in the cars being traded between coasters and cars tested, but eventually never kept. And in June of 2021, a passenger was found unconscious after the ride. Coroner declares that cause of death to be internal bleeding from tear in the thoracic artery. Dawn, who was from Ohio, was perfectly fine when she mounted the ride. Extreme drops and jarring banks of the ride were said to have caused the tear in artery and resulting to the drops to allow her to bleed internally. Holy, yeah, just like going left and right and all of a sudden you tear a literal artery in your body just from violent movements. As with the Raven event, all inspections performed and no safety violations or flaws in the procedure or structure were found. I just don't believe it. If they're comparing it to the Raven, where the f is EcoTaste?
They found no foul play.
They found no foul play. I think Big Coasters is keeping us out, dude. I want to talk to the guy who drinks his whiskey glass in the towers of these amusement parks. He devises these plans to shut the families up. Next up, we have the one that, oh baby, this is in my neck of the woods. Schlitterbahn in Kansas City, Kansas. And this was on a thing called the Verrückt water slide. Let me tell you something. This is just me talking to you because I know this one very personally. The only other water park we had in Kansas City was connected to Worlds of Fun, the amusement park I said, and it was called Oceans of Fun. This is a legitimate memory I have. You have like one of the lazy rivers of all time, and everybody likes a nice lazy river. I was swimming through there. I got a Band-Aid stuck in my mouth like this, and a legitimate Dippin' Dots cart fell into the lazy river, and they took it out and they just dried off the packaging and still sold the Dippin' Dots. I saw that with my eyes. And I remember I legitimately had to get an AIDS test because of the Band-Aid. That's not even joking, because there was blood on the Band-Aids. I didn't have AIDS. I don't have AIDS. I don't have HIV. I'm saying it like I do, and I don't have it. Schlitterbahn, when it opened up, it was supposed to be this big thing because it was new. You know, everyone's like, fuck Oceans of Fun, we're going to Schlitterbahn! But it all came crashing down with the Verrückt water slide. And the water slide, the Verrückt, which is German for insane, it was the world's tallest water slide in 2014. The 168-foot structure meant to open in 2013, and it didn't open until the next year due to the rafts becoming airborne. Tests with sandbags resulted in flying inflatable rafts loaded with sand hitting speeds of 70 miles per hour. And I don't know if I can find footage of this, but they showed that on the news. And let me tell you, people were like, maybe Oceans of Fun isn't that bad. In the grand scheme of it all, I wouldn't mind just going hitting the wave pool at Oceans of Fun. It was horrifying. When they say it became airbound, that they were flying. Big sandbags. I remember there was even dummies at one point flying through the air at 70 miles an hour, okay? It was open with the addition of netting stretched over an arc of metal bands made along the areas where riders were most likely to become airborne. So this is what they decided to do. So because people at a certain point kept going airborne on the slide, they covered the entire thing in a metal mesh. So then if it's like, okay, well, they'll just hit the metal and then they'll go back down the slide. That was a legitimate thing that happened. Before we get into the death here, this was never opened publicly, I don't think, because if I remember correctly, this guy, when this happened, it was like they were getting ready to open, and this was all the special people in Kansas City got to come and test out the park or go there early, like investors and all that stuff. In 2016, the tragic death of a 10-year-old named Caleb, which he was the son of a Kansas legislator, shut the ride down for good. Caleb, riding at the front of the raft with 3 passengers, became airborne at one of the dangerous drops. Hitting the safety net was reported to have done great damage to his neck. It was later revealed that the impact was so severe that he was decapitated. Once again, that became something too. And that was something fucking insane. I used to know a girl when I was in high school working and stuff, and she said that she was one of the people that saw that.
Oh, she saw it?
She saw it in person. She was one of the people, like, his head rolled down the slide, and it was, like, in the pool of bloody water, and she was, like, around the area. I don't know if she was in the water. I don't want to go out that far. This is also all speculation from almost 10 years ago, so give my memory some rest here. It was later revealed that the ride had not been adequately designed or inspected. There were no restraints other than some Velcro or no curve to the half pipe that would have prevented the ride from going airborne. At the height and speed of the ride, it was recommended that a shoulder restraint be installed. A shoulder restraint. I'm guessing that. Does that mean tuck it in? Oh, you mean like go like that? I don't like that. That's a claustrophobic nightmare. It is. That's like some Hellraiser. You're stuck in a tube and there's like metal netting. Your soul, you're going to die. Just like flying down this deal. Later on, due to this extreme negligence, the owner and operator of the park were separately indicted and charged with involuntary manslaughter, aggravated battery, aggravated child endangerment, and negligence and interference with law enforcement. I don't think the Kansas legislator was too happy about that, I'm going to guess. The ride was demolished and the laws in place that allowed for theme parks to self-regulate and self-inspect was repealed and replaced with new legislator with more strict rules. During the investigation, it was eventually discovered that Caleb and his passengers were not the only ones hurt. Over 13 others over the course of the ride's lifetime were hurt and never appropriately documented. And the 2 designers of the ride were indicted on charges that they were not qualified, nor did they follow any protocols in designing and testing the ride. They also performed no basic safety inspection to any quality and attempted to hide evidence from investigators. I think to recoup some of the losses, they had like conventions or something in the parking lot. Yeah, it was just weird, especially because the slide was so big and you're just like, oh, he got his head cut off on that. And now, especially, I'm finding out that 13 other people were hurt. But anyways, to keep it up, Terminal Velocity, Extreme World, Wisconsin. That's a fucking sick music park name. Extreme World? Oh, dude. I would have been busting out my britches trying to go to Extreme World every weekend. weekend. In 2010, it was a free fall experience offering a 50-mile-per-hour, 100-foot free fall drop. Free fall. A 12-year-old died after a ride operator did not engage safety net before dropping a girl. Riders are treated to a free fall experience by hoisting them 140 feet in the air via a harness. The rider is released from the cable and allowed to fall into a safety net 40 feet off the ground, reaching speeds of 50 miles per hour. Ride operator was distracted and did not raise the safety net and stopped the ride too soon, pulled the lever without looking, only to realize his mistake and try to lift the net. Parents were filming as she fell and hit the ground, and she was taken to the hospital. She had 10 fractures in the spine and pelvis, another in the skull, brain swelling, liver, spleen, and intestines were lacerated. Heart stopped multiple times and was revived via CPR. She was near paralyzed and only able to communicate by blinking. She was hospitalized for months but survived and eventually regained ability to walk. No fail-safe mechanism to prevent this injury. Ride operator was determined to be at fault for not paying attention and pled second-degree bodily injury. Park management circumvented police order to preserve the scene for an investigation but did not adhere to this and were caught working on the ride to hide evidence. The ride itself was extremely rusted and the family sued and won for $3.5 million. This little motherfucker went through it, dude. At the same time, I would want more than $3.5 million, if I'm being honest. Just, why not a crisp 10? A crisp 10 for that deal. Especially 10 fractures in the spine and pelvis. That just seems like it should be 10 million. $1 million for each fracture. Why not? You know that guy was definitely trying to, like, he was flirting with some bitch or something like that.
I see some of the worst
He's like, yeah, I mean, I get off at, hey, Rebecca. Rebecca, are you coming over or not? I'm getting Panda Express on the way home. Are you coming? Oh, the net! And then, just happened. We have Paramount's Great America Amusement Park in Santa Clara. In 1999, Labor Day accident involving a trespasser who, avoiding all signs placed every 50 feet, jumped 2 fences in order to crawl underneath a low-passing roller coaster to retrieve his wife's beloved baseball cap. Oh my God. What was the team? What was the team? Renato, a 25-year-old, earned a Darwin Award beneath the Top Gun roller coaster when a passenger's leg collided with his head at speeds of 50 miles per hour. Some person just clubbed him with the leg. The unique design of the roller coaster leaves patrons with their legs dangling in the air, giving them more of a weightless, suspensory feeling. The dangling leg of Jessica Medina collided with Renato's head and simultaneously decapitated him and broke her leg in 2 places. Whoa! Her leg decapitated the guy? That bitch was drinking some milk. Sure, it broke her leg in 2 places, but to decapitate a man? Holy shit, that's awesome. While waiting for park security to clear the scene, Medina was not allowed to disembark the ride. With her obviously broken, dangling leg, she was forced to wait suspended for an additional 40 minutes before park personnel came to her aid. Holy, you know her leg had to look mangled too. Medina, as a result, lost her job, almost lost her leg due to infection and swelling, and now bears lifelong guilt, nightmares, and massive scars down her leg as a reminder every day. She is suing both the park and Renato's state. Renato's wife of 2 months was suing the park, seeking over $1 million in damages as the signs were only in English and he may not have been able to read them. In addition, she claimed the fence paneling was loose. If there's a giant roller coaster, maybe doggone it. I think that's a universal f***ing language. I feel bad for Jessica Medina. It's not your fault, but still, how would you not feel like it's like, I took a person's life, I rode this ride, and my leg was the result of this person's life. It could have been anybody else's leg, but it was hers, and now she fucking is mutilated for something that wasn't even her fault. That is absolutely Next up, we have the Ferris wheel at the Jambalaya Festival in Louisiana. May 2023, riders at the Jambalaya Festival in Louisiana were left terrorized after the Ferris wheel halted. Jolted and metal creaking sounds broke the silence. These portable carnival rides that came through the area are under lax inspections, and the aging mechanism that controlled the tires that spun to control the turning of the wheel by park reports went flat, causing the wheel to spin freely. This was contradicted by patron footage as the entire structure had leaned and the ride was spinning very fast while operators desperately tried to pull people off the ride as they passed. That's not gonna work. Tried to pull people off as they passed. Hold on! Grab my hand. That's how they do it at the Jambalaya Festival. Now, goddamn it, I got jalapeno and andouille sausages on my eyes. Come on, grab my hand. Some patrons jumped off the ride in a panic, and a 2-year-old was almost flung from the ride as the structure skipped the rails. There were no safety fasteners and only a bar stopping people off the side. Anytime you see one of those like state fair redneck amusement park things, I never go on those. Those are a recipe for disaster. I'm telling you, these things are absolutely Also, I remember one time I saw this carny at one of these things. I think he got arrested that night, but he was spitting at people when they went by, and it was so fast that you couldn't tell it was him. But he was just sitting there eating sunflower seeds, and he was like hucking loogies at people and just laughing. I remember, I think I was like 9, and I was like, I don't think I want to come back here, Mom. Next up, we have the Ghost Train in Sydney, Australia. In 1979, the Ghost Train ride caught fire at the Luna Park, Sydney, killing 7 people. The park was unprepared when the train caught fire due to low staffing and inadequate firefighting equipment, and the fire completely destroyed the train. Originally, the fire was blamed on electrical faults, but arson was also claimed. Ooh. Someone thinks it was intentional, huh? Ironically, the train cars would enter through a door called Hell's Doorway at the start of the ride. That's unfortunate. Most of the time during the ride was spent in the dark. The ride also featured dancing skeletons, an ape monster, and a dragon's head. And the ride also featured a fake fireplace, which, according to witness, is where the actual fire took place. The irony of this ride is haunting. The fire broke out at 10:15 p.m. on the ride, and 35 people were on board. Staff raised the alarm and started to pull people from the ride, and the park's fire hose had a low water pressure and could only cover part of the ride as it sprayed, so it took an hour to get the fire under control. Originally, the staff thought everyone had escaped the fire, but the bodies of 7 people were soon found inside. The bodies revealed a man and his 2 children and 4 students from the Waverly College. That is horrible. The low water pressure thing is pretty insane. There must be like an immediate realization when you turn it on, you're just like, this is not what we had planned. The euthanasia coaster. The euthanasia coaster is a hypothetical roller coaster that is designed to kill you. Yes, you heard that right. A person made a roller coaster that was designed to be the funnest way to die. Which honestly, when he says it like that, you're like, that rules. Actually, that would be sweet. Would I rather be lethal injection? Hell no, dude. The ride plummets down a 1,640-foot near vertical drop before it enters in a series of loops that gets progressively tighter and tighter. The riders would sustain 10 G-forces for a full minute. Everybody looks like those pilots in those like training things where they're like, with like their faces all sunken in. This would cause your blood rush to your arms and legs, which would starve your brain of oxygen. Shortly after falling unconscious, the brain would quickly follow into death. The designer of the ride, Juliano Urbanos, stated the goal of the concept was to take lives with elegance and euphoria. Juliano Urbanos I feel like he is the only roller coaster designer to ever actually tell the truth of like, it's not necessarily about the fun, it's about putting people in a near-death experience, except he was just like, the near-death, I'm one to kill you. You almost think he's like in an all-black suit, and he's like, with elegance and euphoria, ride my ride. What would he call the ride?
The Death Spiral.
Death Spiral works. There's that. I'm trying to think of something like in Kansas City, the big roller coaster is called the Mamba.
What about the Scrambler?
Scrambler's good. I like the Scramble. The Tasmanian Devil. Because he spins. What about that, dude? Dude, that'd be some sick merch too. Some of those like 90s airbrush Tasmanian Devil things. And it's him, and it's like his eyes are all like, and there's like Tweety birds around his head. And last but not least is the Human Trebuchet in Middlemore Water Park, England. This water park had a trebuchet in the grass where customers could pay roughly $70 US to be launched into the air and land into a safety net. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that that did not happen accurately. Riders soared through the air at 60 miles an hour and traveled a distance of 75 feet. The safety net they were supposed to land on was rather thin and also not very wide. It was about the size of a tennis court. That feels so small. For a human body to be flung that far? What's on the list? I mean, what do I expect? Looks unsafe. Many onlookers noted how many riders barely made it onto the net in the last second. In 2000, a middle-aged woman named Stella Young landed in the net, bounced up, and fell through the netting and broke her pelvis. The ride continued on despite this, and 2 years later, a 19-year-old Oxford student, Dino Yankoff, missed the net by a few inches and hit the edge. He broke his legs and his spine upon impact and died later in the hospital. The paramedic that attended to Yankoff said the damage done was, quote-unquote, horrific, and that Yankoff knew that his chances of survival were grim, yelling, "I am going to die!" to Picard, the paramedic. That is horrible. You know, that kind of reminds me of a little bit is whenever that guy, the skiing accident, and he jumps off that ski and he hits his shins on the ski slope, which is like pretty much raw ice. And as he's sliding down, he's like, "My ankles are broken! My ankles are broken!" And the guy's like, "He has broken ankles." And he's like, "I have broken ankles! Ah! I got broken ankles! It's coming, Paul!" I bet it was not like that, but the guy actually died, so that's not funny. And we're not going to joke about that. The 2 men in charge of adjusting the weights for the release of each trebuchet pole were on trial for manslaughter, but are eventually cleared of the charges due to lack of evidence. How was that possible? They were there for the trebuchet, and a man died. How, like, Well, there's just not enough evidence, is there? I guess we're just gonna have to chalk this one up to an oopsie daisy, ain't we? That's fucking England, dude. That's what British people sound like. 50 people had to use the trebuchet that year, leading to Yankov's death. The catapult was put out of use during the investigation and was not used again. Which also, I just want to say, that is the most British sounding ride ever. A fucking trebuchet, a literal medieval catapult, basically. We used to throw stones at big buildings with this thing, but instead, let's just do humans. Let's just do humans. That concludes our video, and I just want to say this. If you're thinking about going into a fun amusement park this spring or summer, maybe think about the ride you're on. Look at the ride. Look at the people standing in the ride. Do you want to be one of those people? Do you want to be one of these statistics? Because now after reading this, I swear to God, I'm like thinking about never going to an amusement park again. Maybe Disney, where it's the Star Wars area, and I can get blue milk, I can get a lightsaber, or I can go to Universal Studios and get a Harry Potter wand. I will say too, don't spend your money on Universal Studios Hollywood. It sucks. I went to Mario Land in there, and that was ass. It always looks cool when there are people like, I see people take, social media pictures of it. It looks great. It's not good. It is not good at all. But at least you won't die there. At least we don't hope. What if Bowser came and jumped on someone's head? Or what if Mario jumped on someone's head? Yeah, and just like shattered your spine. Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. That was horrible. I'm sorry. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Welcome back to the Papa Me channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down. Today we're going to be talking about something extremely familiar to us all. You see, I was driving through town today and I saw almost like the Parthenon, an ancient relic of the past, left behind by man only to be observed by passing passengers. People in cars that drive by. I drove by a McDonald's that was out of business, and I saw the play place, just an abandoned play place. And I thought to myself, my God, I haven't thought of the play place in forever, and it led me to think about the entire history of the play place. So today, we're gonna be going over the rise and fall of the McDonald's play place, or pretty much just like the playgrounds in fast food places. It's just weird. But without further ado, let's get started. Today's video is sponsored by World of Tanks Blitz. World of Tanks Blitz is an exciting, legendary, free-to-play MMO with over 450 tanks at your disposal. And it's fully cross-platform, available on mobile, Mac, PC, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. 14 tanks on a map, all trying to destroy each other, is so goofy and so much fun. And there's just something about having historical tanks mixed with fantasy-based ones and special abilities keeps me coming back. With over 150 million downloads, 8 game modes, and over 32 maps, there's plenty to conquer. Tanks! And right now, the game has an exclusive event going on in collaboration with the upcoming movie Dune Part 2. Timothy Chalamet. Tanks! From now until March 7th, players will be able to get exclusive in-game content inspired by the movie, including the formidable ground tank when they play in the event. And all you have to do is look out for the secret clue I've hidden in this video, and guess whose side I have chosen, Harkonnen or Freeman?